there is what I consider a pretty big deal that just happened with regard to the Ukraine war. So we need to get into that.
A big day in drone strikes into Moscow. I believe a record day. 1 second. As I'm recording this video, 187 drones launched just towards Moscow. And one of the drones...
And this is driving the Russians mad. It's really angering the Russians. There is debate over how much actual damage they're doing, but yeah, no one wants drones flying into their capital and destroying shit. If there were drones flying into Washington and destroying shit, even if it was not important shit, America would freak out.
Drones. And we have the video images, the video footage of one of the drones smashing into a Moscow refinery, the Moscow refinery that was hit just 2-3 days ago. At the start of the G7, Zelensky launched a drone strike into Moscow, and one of the drones hit the Moscow refinery, which is 20 or 25 kilometers from the city center. And the drone smashed into the Moscow refinery. And then 2-3 days later, from when the start of the G7 happens, the end of the G7, today, you get a drone strike, big drone strike into Moscow. And one of the drones hits the same refinery. And
here's a quick video of that. Boom! Explosions like that, it hit a gas tank. And gas tanks are easy to replace, so it's not... It destroys inventory and it takes some storage offline for a while, but it's not the most costly to replace. But it does make a big cloud in the sky.
And we're talking about a massive explosion in Moscow, 25 kilometers from the city center. And yesterday you had a drone strike that hit a school bus with children from Belarus who were...
I said this would happen, that Europe would continue provoking Russia. And it's the corrupt globalists in Europe want Russia to strike at NATO. And the thing is, I don't think Russia has a choice. They're going to have to strike at NATO, at the NATO members, because Europe, I've said it, is just going to continue with the escalation. And unless Russia enforces its red lines, they're just going to go further and further, and to the point, to things that Russia can't survive or economically if they don't put an end to.
Playing football, a football team, a kids' football team. And this was in Bryansk, and a drone hit the bus. One person was killed, the chaperone of the team. She was killed in this incident. Her husband, who was the coach, was on the bus. Children injured. And this happened.
Yeah, this attacking civilian buses, that's absolutely enraging. Think of how angry we were after 9/11. Granted, a lot more people died, but in terms of, if you add up all the civilian deaths together that Ukraine is causing, maybe we're halfway to the death toll of 9/11. It's probably not even that, but in any case, it's over several hundred at this point.
Happened yesterday in the Bryansk region. Well, 100% civilian target. And they hit the school bus.
Yep.
So Zelensky, he posted on X about the drone hitting the Moscow refinery for a second time. And he posted quite a long message on X last night, our long-range sanctions. That's what
it's such a joke. It's not Ukrainian, it's European drones with U.S. intelligence. Ukraine is a glorified launching platform. That's Ukraine's only role in this.
Calls it sanctions. Once again, reached the Moscow region for the second time this week. The Moscow oil refinery.
Yeah, I'm sure the globalists in Europe want Russia to attack Europe, and they want to use that to do war against Russia. But like so many plans, I think it's not going to work. I think what people in the UK are focused on is this UK grooming gangs. And do they really want the idea of British men being sent off to die against Russia while British women are raped and tortured back at home? No, there'll be complete rejection of that. There's the enemy British men want to fight right now. The ones that are militant are inside the UK.
Was hit. And then he goes on to talk about other targets that were hit in Russia. And then he says, in recent days,
it will work on the U.S. though? No, it won't. Trump is already, his relationship with Europe is fried. He took 5,000 troops out of Germany, and he's pissed at Europe. And I don't think it'll work. I don't think Trump is just managing to get out of this Iran war. Do you think he wants to go to war with Russia? That would be like 10x times the disaster than a war against Iran. That would be that. If you think if I'm pretty sure his presidency is over already because of the Iran war, but if he lets himself be drawn into a war against Russia, he's fucked like completely. And I think he's smart enough to know that. So he won't. He'll say, "Oh, Article 5, that's nice." No, that's what he said because he has the right to do that. Article 5 isn't automatic.
All of our partners have noted the precision and effectiveness of our mid-range strikes and long-range sanctions. It is time the war ended and Russia must take the necessary steps in diplomacy. All our partners have noted the precision and effectiveness of our mid-range and long-range.
And it also depends entirely what targets Russia strikes. I mean, if it strikes a few targets in Lithuania, do you think Trump is want to go to war in defense of Lithuania?
Strikes. Long-range sanctions is what he says. Mid-range strikes and long-range sanctions is what he says in the Post. The precision of it. Because behind the strikes, behind the precision and effectiveness, it's not Ukraine.
Exactly.
It's NATO, it's the United States.
Ukraine is just a launching platform. It's an excuse. It's a wonderful excuse for the United States and Europe to just send drones deep into Russia and destroy whatever critical infrastructure they want. They're adversarial towards Russia, and they could just use Ukraine as a launching pad to just go in and damage it, as long as Russia is not striking back. And the thing is, I've said it before, if Russia doesn't respond, and it hasn't yet, they're going to escalate, and that's coming. That's later in this video. You'll see.
Starlink Palantir. That's who's behind all of this. And everyone knows it, including Russia, including Putin. But the Kremlin, they remain very quiet, very silent. They say nothing.
But they are
It
seething.
appears. I'm not saying this is
The people are seething, at least. And I think those advocating for calm, they're losing the battle in the Kremlin.
case, but it appears. They say nothing and they do nothing. At least that's how it looks. And the drones are launched every single day. And we're not talking about 5 drones or 10 drones. Hundreds and hundreds of drones are launched every.
Yeah, and they may not be doing a huge amount of damage, but combined every single day, they are doing damage. They are hurting the Russian economy. They are killing innocent civilians. And I've said it like a month ago. Yes, Russia can endure a month of these drones, but 6 months, a year more of every day these drones going in and destroying stuff, eventually the damage will start accumulating faster than it can be repaired. And then the Russian economy just starts collapsing.
Single day into Russia. It does seem as if the drones launched into Russia are accelerating. It's becoming more often, more common that the drones are launching on a daily basis.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier this year. They're becoming very common.
We seem to be getting the strikes now into Russia, where before I would say about 3 months ago or 2 months ago, it was as if the drones being launched into Russia were less drones and also happening less often. The frequency of the strikes, that's what I want to say, are now on a daily basis.
And that's honestly, I say Putin, Russia is making a mistake. He should have done this during the Iran war. Just struck the factories making these drones. If he knows where they are, take them out, because it's just going to escalate. And you've taken a lot of damage in like these 2-3 months that was unnecessary.
And more drones on a daily basis. And then we got the messaging from Macron and the G7, but mostly Macron, which is that Russia is in retreat, Ukraine is advancing. This is Macron.
And Russia is only self to blame for allowing this narrative to be created, because Ukraine is sending all these drones and just blowing shit up in Moscow. That looks terrible for Russia. They shouldn't be. Russia is a superpower. It shouldn't be allowing this shit. Yet it is. And Putin, he needs to stop being a weak little bitch, is my opinion.
That all of the G7 is united in their belief that Russia does not want an end to the conflict, and therefore the G7, once again united, all on the same page, according to Macron. The G7 has to escalate militarily and has to put pressure on Russia with more sanctions. This is all coming from little Napoleon Emmanuel Macron at the G7. And of course, we have the statements from Macron, the big statement from Macron at the G7, which is that the collective West, the G7 countries, including U.S. President Trump, are now considering, and they're open to the possibility of granting Ukraine a production license.
I'm just getting pissed off just thinking about it. Sorry.
For U.S. weapons.
This just ticks me off so much. Putin should never have allowed it to get to this point. It's never, ever, ever fucking enforcing his red lines. That is why this is happening. And I'll explain why it's a big deal. It's a license to make U.S. weapons. No. United States and Europe aren't going to give crucial technology on how to make missiles to Ukraine. That isn't the purpose of this. What this is a purpose of, I'll let him explain.
Manufacturing U.S. Interceptors, air defense interceptors, Patriot systems, as well as a license for Ukraine to begin producing long-range missiles.
There, that's it. Now, why would they do that? Go on the assumption, United States and Europe, they're not going to actually give any technology to Ukraine to be able to. So why are they doing these licenses? Well, for just like the drones. Like that, you could take missiles from the United States, ship them over to Ukraine, and Ukraine just stamps like a Ukrainian flag on them and sends them into Russia. That's what's going to happen. That is what this licensing agreement is about. Now it just won't be like hundreds of drones every day. Now you're going to have hundreds of drones and missiles every day going into Russia. And missiles, they do damage in a way drones don't. They carry much bigger explosives. They can take out a crucial target. And if Russia just waits like a little bitch into Europe and the United States, starts sending these in, their factories are going to get destroyed. Their logistical networks are going to get destroyed. I mean, by the time, if they ever decide, okay, now it's time to hit back at Europe, if they wait until they start sending hundreds of missiles into Russia, all the plants where Russia makes missiles and stuff are going to be leveled by then. I mean, this is, I've said before, Russia loses if it doesn't respond to this. Russia doesn't want to create Article 5, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Russia is just going to lose, straight up. Ukraine can win if all of NATO and Europe and the United States are allowed to just send unlimited amount of drones and missiles into Ukraine to be launched into Russia. Yeah, that'll take out the Russian economy, and Russia will lose the war. It's economic collapse. It'll be balkanized, complete defeat. So if you're facing complete defeat, or you attack a EU country, you attack a EU country. And you do that before they start launching missiles. I mean, this is I have generally been on board with whatever Putin's doing. It's worked out so far. He might be had been playing long game to wait till Europe collapse, but now that they signed this licensing agreement, if Putin waits until they start launching missiles into Russia and destroying critical shit, then I say he's a moron. Because you just, that's Russia giving up and just surrendering. These drones already are doing enough damage cumulatively to that Europe and Russia are at war. So why are you pussyfooting around and just, you know where the factories are, take them out. Don't wait until they start launching missiles.
There was an Evian moment. Macron posted on X. We all said that at the G7, we will increase our support for Ukraine and the pressure on Russia. Trump agreed that Russia has shown no serious desire for peace, French President Emmanuel Macron said. Trump said, Zelensky...
Europe is gearing up for war with Russia regardless. The globalists want that. And even if Putin doesn't respond, at some point they'll make up their own excuse to start the war. So it's stupid. If Russia does nothing and let them lob missiles, it's not going to prevent war with Europe. Europe will find a false flag or something to start the war. It's just going to be Russia. It's just going to be a much weaker position. Its economy in tatters the day Europe decides to send troops in.
Putin needs to sit down for negotiations. Noted Russia is losing more troops it is attacking, and said a request to produce U.S. missiles in Ukraine remains under consideration. Trump also, when he was asked about this license agreement, he did confirm what Macron said, that he will consider it, granting Ukraine a license to produce not only air defense systems and interceptors and missiles and stuff like that, but also
European countries have boatloads of U.S. weapons. So if Trump grants this license, that lets all these countries in Europe start sending their inventories of whatever over to Ukraine to be used. And they'll just stamp a Ukrainian flag on it and pretend it was made in Ukraine.
Long-range missiles. And Trump shifting focus from Iran, now shifting focus back to Project Ukraine. Trump once again talked about how yes, Russia is advancing, but Russia is losing. Russia's losing many, many more men than Ukraine is, because...
That isn't true, by the way. They are losing men, though.
It is advancing. So Trump is back at it. As I said in my video update, everyone needs to prepare for the Trump White House to return to the project.
And that's why one reason, I think, another reason Putin made a huge strategic mistake during his Iran war. When the United States was bogged down in Iran, that's when you bitch slap Europe and get them to stop doing the drone stuff. You bomb their factories. Trump is going to be at war with Iran and Russia at the same time. He'll ignore Article 5 for sure at that juncture. So it was a perfect time to bitch slap Europe and get the drone attacks to stop. To wait until the cease agreement is signed. Now, if you bitch slap Europe, yes, United States can give Russia its full attention. It's actually much more possible. I still don't think it'll happen, but it's more possible for the United States to get involved. So it was just, Putin just has been, I think, idiotic, at least this year. I agree with not striking Europe all the way up to now, but after these long-range drone strikes into Russia started, he should have bitch slapped Europe enough to get it to stop. And Russians are dying because he decided not to.
Ukraine, Russia bashing. The Trump White House is going to return to all of that. And yesterday he said Russia's losing many, many more men as they advance. He did say they are advancing, while Macron is saying that Russia is retreating and Ukraine is advancing. So there is
on the battlefield, Russia keeps moving forwards. It's about to take 3 critical cities, and it's about to move beyond the territory that, you know how Ukraine refuses to withdraw from Donbass? Well, this summer, Russia is going to 100% conquer the Donbass and start moving beyond that.
A slight difference, a big difference between Macron and Trump. But Macron and Trump are on record saying that they are united in the policy going forward with Project Ukraine. And what we are going to see is the licensing agreements for weapons going to the Zelensky regime. And so what is going to play out in reality? Ukraine is not going to manufacture interceptors and long-range missiles with this licensing agreement. None of that is going.
Exactly. He's took a while to get there, but he's going the point I made exactly. This licensing agreement is just an excuse to send missiles to Ukraine to lob them deep into Russia. And Ukraine has done a few missile attacks, like with supposed Flamingo missiles, and they did big damage during those missile attacks. Nothing like the drone ones.
Going to happen. That's fiction. That is ridiculous. What the collective West is doing is they are preparing their cover story. That's it.
Exactly.
They're preparing the cover story because now that they got the drones going and they don't see any pushback from Russia.
And that's Putin's fault. He could have pushed back. The best time would have been like a month ago or a month and a half ago when the hot war was still happening in Iran and Trump was consumed with that crisis, and he would not even have considered Article 5 at that point.
All the drones that are hitting Russia, the next step now is to clear the way for the long-range missile strikes. And Ukraine is not going to manufacture long-range missiles. What they're going to do,
Yes, Ukraine should have admitted defeat. They can't defend themselves, and it's always been a proxy war. The thing is, Zelensky isn't doing what's in the best interests of Ukraine. There are no elections. There haven't been elections in years in Ukraine. Most of Ukrainians want this war to end no matter what the cost. He's a EU puppet, and the EU wants to continue the war. Well, of course the EU wants. It's not EU citizens that are dying. It's Ukrainians. They're dragging people off the streets in Kiev now. They hadn't really done that up to now, but the last few months they've started dragging people off the streets in Kiev to send them off to the front line. And yeah, Ukraine is going to be a rump of a country after this. It's going to have lost Odessa, possibly Kiev too, and it's only going to be this small. This is going to be Ukraine afterwards. It's going to lose everything, because that's what happens when you allow the West to put a puppet government in your country. That's what's about. Armenia is about to experience something similar. Their Western puppet there is about to fuck over the country there too.
Most likely is they're going to take, let's say, Taurus missiles, for example, and they're going to paint over it. They're going to slap a sticker on it which says "Made in Ukraine." Maybe they'll put a sticker on it that says Flamingo missile or whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever they want to place on the missile, they'll do all of that. And then they're going to launch it into Russia.
Exactly.
And when Russia says these are NATO missiles or German missiles or whatever, NATO and the United States are going to say, Ukraine missiles. These aren't our missiles. And that's going to be the game that they play. They're just building up their cover story. Just like they do with the drones, actually.
No, it's exactly the same thing as the drones. Drones are made outside Ukraine too. The only thing they do is like paint a Ukrainian flag on it when it comes into Ukraine.
Look, these are Ukraine drones. Ukraine is doing the targeting. Ukraine is doing the launching. These drones are not using our Eastern European airspace. No, oh no.
He's being sarcastic in those three comments. Ukraine, there are Ukrainian drones being launched from the Baltic states. Like the ones that hit St. Petersburg. Yeah, Ukraine isn't launching drones all the way around like this and going to here. One reason they don't want to do that is they could get drones to go that far, but as long as you removed all the explosive charge and they only have fuel. If you want a drone to actually hit and do an explosion, you need to have less fuel, and someone from here, from Latvia is what I hear they were launched from. And you launch them up, they go up to sea, and then they come in via the sea because it's hard to have anti-air defenses over the sea. And they struck St. Petersburg during the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. There you have EU-made drones being fired from an EU state through EU airspace into Russia. I mean, EU and Russia are at war. And Putin's failure to recognize this is infuriating. I mean, if this isn't enough to do the war, what do you want them to do? Like send missiles straight into the Kremlin before you actually respond? Because that's at this point, I think that's what it'll take. Putin's just such a little bitch about this.
That's Russian propaganda. They're going to build the same type of excuses for the long-range missiles. These aren't Collective West missiles. These aren't Taurus missiles. These aren't Tomahawk missiles or whatever other missiles that they're going to use. These are Ukrainian-manufactured missiles launched by Ukraine, using targeting by Ukraine, whatever, and that's how they're going to go about.
Putin doesn't want to hurt innocent Westerners. He sees Europe heading for collapse. He knows the United States heading for collapse. He knows what I do. He is better. His intelligence. He knows about the currency collapse is coming, and even short of the currency collapse, just the political revolution that is happening in like the UK and everything. He sees that the AfD would have a totally different attitude towards Russia once it comes into power. And so he's been waiting for that to happen and not escalating. But it's too late. My time frame for that to happen is still years away. There isn't elections in the UK for years. The AfD isn't going to come in power at the next election in Germany. And Putin can't afford to wait 5 years. They'll start lobbing missiles. If you have all of the United States and Europe just devoted to sending missiles one side. This is a fight where the EU and Europe are allowed to hit Russia and Russia is not allowed to hit back. And now EU and Russia are hitting harder and harder. EU and America are hitting harder and harder and harder. Eventually, just Russia will crumble. It's the strategy that he's adopted is no longer viable.
About this, you see, licensing agreement.
And the longer he's doing the same shit Trump is, like Trump. He had this deal on his death, April 4th, and he's dilly-dallied for a month and a half before biting the bullet and finally signing this MOU with Iran. Putin's doing the same thing. He is going to have to hit Europe and hit the factories making the drones in Europe. But he's going to dilly and dally for another few months, and by that, until they start lobbing missiles, and Russia's just going to take a lot of unneeded, completely unnecessary damage, because he's going to have to do it anyway. And if Putin doesn't respond, even to the missiles, do you know what's going to happen then? U.S. and Europe will find a way to escalate even more and hurt Russia even worse via Ukraine. They need to stop talking about giving nukes to Ukraine. And maybe if Ukraine starts sending nuclear missiles into Russia, then it'll finally get off its ass.
We even have the licensing agreement signed. Nonsense. It's all nonsense, but that's what they're doing. The licensing scheme could be part of the effort to further decentralize arms production to avoid potential retaliatory strikes from Russia, as well as to disguise the supplied weaponry as a Ukrainian homegrown product.
That's obviously what it is. Europe knows Ukraine is a corrupt mess of a country. It doesn't want critical technology getting into the hands of Ukrainian. It would never allow that. It knows that Ukraine won't be an EU member for decades. So, what is the purpose of this licensing agreement? Well, it's as a cover for to disguise supplied weaponry as Ukrainian homegrown product.
Exactly. It's not going to be a Ukrainian homegrown product. You have to be an idiot to believe that Ukraine is going to have a production facility in Ukraine producing missiles. That's ridiculous.
It is.
Absolutely ridiculous. Nor do you produce missiles in a few months' time. These types of endeavors usually take many, many years, if not a decade, to get up and running and get to some sort of mass production. So anyway, that is a big announcement, and what's going to happen is we're going to wait and see when and if. Hopefully, this doesn't happen, but
I will say it hasn't happened yet, this licensing agreement, but I'm sure it will. Last year, they used a supposed drone incursion into EU airspace as an excuse to ramp up all this drone production that's currently being thrown at Russia. And they're seeing that the drones, yes, they're having good political effect, but they're not crippling Russia enough, so they want to add missiles to the mix. And so this licensing agreement, 100%, it'll happen at some point. And because Trump gives and takes. Europe will offer Trump something he wants, and so he'll give them the licensing agreement in exchange. That's what, like, maybe in exchange for Greenland or something. And then you're gonna have Russia attack Europe, and you're gonna have the risk of World War II, because Trump is bribable. I mean, maybe not personally, maybe that too, we'll see. But at least if he has something he wants, like Greenland, and Europe says, give us a licensing agreement, give Ukraine licensing agreement for U.S. weaponry, that's the type of thing he'll do.
I think they're telegraphing their next move. When the missiles are fired into Russia, we're going to have to wait and see what the response is going to be from Putin and the Kremlin.
And it will happen. And that's what pisses me off, is Putin. He could strike back against the drone factories now. Why does he have to wait until Russia gets really, pummeled? You want to wait until the West sends missiles into all your factories so you can't make anything anymore? And at that point you decide, oh, maybe we should get off our ass? It's just so stupid.
How they are going to deal with this. Are they going to deal with this in the same way that they deal with the drones? Or are they going to handle this differently? Because long-range missiles into Russia are without a doubt a red line that Russia has put in place.
The drones were a red line, but the missiles are even more of a red line. And if it doesn't respond to this, then the entire world will see Russia as a paper tiger, as the world's little bitch that is too afraid to do anything. And Europe will escalate even more. He'll be even more likely to have war against Russia and Europe, because Europe will say, hey, look how weak Russia is. Let's just send even more missiles. Let's get our troops ready. And yeah, he's basically, if Putin doesn't respond soon to these provocations by Europe, he might as well surrender and save the world a lot of trouble, because the results will be the same. You either hit back and you protect Mother Russia, or you surrender, because you're going to lose in a long, slow, drawn-out process with which hundreds, if not thousands, of Russians will die. Civilians, I'm talking about, not soldiers. Anyway, that's my feeling. I'm really ticked off about this, because it should never have gone to this point. That's what ticks me off so much. Russia should have put a stop to the drone attacks, EU drone attacks. You have EU sending EU drones from Latvia into St. Petersburg just last week. No Ukrainian involvement. And Russia didn't respond to that, didn't attack Latvia for doing this. That's why you're hearing this licensing agreement. That's why Europe is saying, oh, Russia's a little bitch. Let's send missiles now into them too. It's entirely Putin's fault and the current Russian leadership, allowing this to even be floated as a possibility. God, it irritates me. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.